Hi, I'm Karen Donnelly, the middle school English teacher. We welcome you to fifth grade. All of the teachers have sent home all the supplies that you need for all of your different subjects, as I have as well. You have an English book and an English workbook, which we will certainly be using. But you also have a very different little book called Vocabulary Workshop. This is part of my English curriculum. And my 6th and 7th graders already know how this works, but my new 5th graders have never done this before. So in an effort to help it be easier for you and for them, I wanted to show you exactly how it was going to work. Every unit in vocabulary is going to be taught and practiced and tested the exact same way. So my 7th graders are following the same procedure that my new 5th graders are. There's no set schedule for vocabulary. I just slip it in whenever it's a good time in my curriculum. My goal is to accomplish 9 units by the end of the year, so we certainly will not finish the book. First, the student is introduced to the word with a lot of practice in the book, and then we do the practice pages, and finally we end the unit with a test. After we've discussed all 20 words, we do a lot of the activities together, but some of them the students will be required to work at home. We always check the work and review the words often before they take the test. You usually have over a week to study and review before the test is actually given. So you have plenty of time in order to study a little bit each day to prepare for the test. There are several very helpful websites that the student can use. If you will open the Vocabulary Workshop book to the cover, the inside cover page, right here. This is the cover, this is the page, and go way down at the bottom, you're going to see an access code. If you will use the website, which is listed right here, vocabularyworkshop.com, and then enter the access code, your student will be able to not only have the lesson available to them, but lots of additional helps like crossword puzzles and hangman games and all sorts of things that they can use to help them practice. There are other websites that you can refer to as well. There's also one called www.vocabtest.com. Quizlet is also excellent, and spellingcity.com is a great one, not only for spelling in my vocabulary lesson, but also for Miss LaBeouf when she gives her spelling tests. So please keep all those additional helps in mind when you are working with the vocabulary unit. The entire unit that is on my screen, that I'll show you in just a minute, is going to be posted in your students' Google Classroom. It's going to be labeled At Home English, and that's where they will find all the helps that I possibly can give to guide them through these lessons. So they will actually have a copy of what my students in school are seeing as I teach it. It's going to show many things, and those are the things that they have to know when the time for the test comes. There will be a red circle around a certain syllable in order to teach the child how to say the word. They need to know that stressed syllable. There's also a section on parts of speech. They need to know how a word is used. Is it a noun, a person, place, thing, or idea? Is it an action, which makes it a verb, or is it an adjective, which just describes? Those are the 3 that are used over and over again in our book. They also need to know the spelling of the 20 words. However, only 3 will be chosen for the test. They need to know the definition, they need to know the synonyms, and they also have to know the opposites of the word. So for example, the antonym of on is off. They'll need to know that as well. They'll need to know how to use it in a sentence when they are given a word bank. Now, all of this is new, but after they've done it a few times, you're going to see how easy it is for them to master. On the back cover of your vocabulary workshop, I have stapled all of these things that they are going to need to know by the time they take the test. So you have everything you need on the back cover. Now I will assign the workbook pages again in the at-home Google Classroom, and I have a special template which matches the exercises perfectly. And your child will type their answer into the template, and then you will return it to me through Google Classroom, and I will check it and return it back. I do not want scanned pages. When I give you the test, the same thing will apply. I will send the scanned test to you, but I have a template that your child will type their answers into, and then you will return it to me through Google Classroom. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always email me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Now, I'm going to show you what the unit is going to look like. Rob, something popped up. Just a second. Yes. Okay, here's what the students see in school, and this is what you will have your very own copy of in at-home English. It lists the word, which in this case for Unit 1 is apparel. We say the P-A-R harder than we say the ap or the L. It's not pronounced apparel, and it's not pronounced apparel, it's pronounced apparel. So the P-A-R is the stressed syllable. So your child needs to circle that in red, and of course they'll have my copy as a demonstration. They need to know the part of speech. In this particular case, apparel can be a noun because it's clothing, and clothing are things, or it could be the action, which means to clothe or to dress. So they will need a red pen to make the circle, but then I need them to use a highlighter and just to highlight the only things they see on the screen and forget about all the other words that appear in the lesson. So they need to highlight the N for noun, and they need to highlight the word clothing. They need to highlight the V for verb and the words to clothe or to dress. They also need to go to the antonyms, and there's a list at the bottom, antonyms, where it will say to undress. All of this is in their Unit 1, here, where they will circle, the P-A-R, and they will highlight the N and the V, and they will highlight clothing, because that's up here. They will highlight to put clothes on or dress up, because that's right here. Then they're going to go down to where it says antonyms, and they're going to highlight undress, which is right here. That is all they need to know for the lesson. They do not need to know anything else. So that's why I want them to highlight to make sure they know what they need to study. Now, of course, you're going to have your very own copy of this, but by the student doing these activities in the unit, it gives them practice. After we do this with the word apparel, then if you notice, there's two sentences. So the first sentence is the noun sentence. We're using apparel as clothing, as a noun. So they write in print to practice the spelling, winter apparel should be warm and cozy. The second sentence is using apparel as a verb. So they write it in print, practicing the spelling, and they'll have let's apparel our cats for the party. After we do this for apparel, then we move down to the next word, which is besiege. We say the word besiege. Siege is stressed harder, so we circle in red the word the syllable siege. It is only an action, so we highlight V for verb, and it means to attack. So it would be one army besieged another. They attacked the other. That's all they need to know for besiege. So then we're going to go back to the book, and in print, practicing the spelling, we're going to write, if troops besiege their stronghold, the rebel forces may be forced to surrender. Now, if you're not sure how the words are said, the websites that I've given you actually have an audio feature where they say the words for the child. So they will actually be able to hear the word apparel spoken, and they'll be able to hear the word besiege spoken. And so the more they listen to it and the more they know how to pronounce the word, the easier the stress syllable becomes. Now the next word, English is an amazing language and it has lots of things we can do with our words. And this word is an example of some of the things that they can do. We are able to pronounce this word two different ways. We can pronounce it compress when we want it to be a noun, because it's that cloth that you might put on your forehead when you have fever or on your shoulder when you have an injury. But it can also be the verb, and then it's pronounced compress, and that's when it's the action of pressing together, like you might an inflatable mattress when you're trying to get it back into its pouch. The antonym is to expand, like if you're going to compress the inflatable mattress into its pouch when you're finished, the opposite would be to have it expand and blow up for it to be used. So that's what this ANT means. It means antonym, which is the opposite. I will always have the antonyms in pink so that the student can distinguish them from the actual definitions. These are the synonyms and the definitions for the word. Again, we will go to the book and we will practice the spelling in print, and we will put in, the editor helped compress my rambling 25-page mystery into an 8-page thriller, and then we will put a cold compress, this is the noun version, may soothe headache pain. And then of course we're going to highlight the antonym, which if you notice sometimes that antonym is not always there. It doesn't happen often. Sometimes it happens. If you see it on my screen, and if it's not in the book, have the student take their red pen and write it in. Again, you don't have to worry. I will always have it here for them. They do not have to know any other words but the ones that are on the screen. These are the only things that they have to know to prepare for the test. Then we would go to the next word, which is denounce. Denounce, the stress is nounce. It is only an action. It means to accuse. The Jews denounced Jesus of a crime. The Jews accused Jesus of a crime. The antonym is to hail, and this is not the hail like we sometimes have falling from the sky. This is like, Hail Mary, full of grace. This is where we praise her. This is the opposite of accusing. We then go to the sentences and we say the United Nations decided to publicly denounce the tyrant's crimes. The next word is dispatch. So again, I say patch, harder than the DIS. So that is the stress syllable. The more they listen to the words pronounced, or the more that you might pronounce it for them, they are going to easily be able to see which syllable is kind of said harder, longer, stronger. That's what I mean by stress. This word also can be a noun or a verb. As a noun, it's a message. In the mornings, sometimes we have to send a dispatch to the office, a message. The action of actually carrying the message, being sent out with the message, is the verb form of dispatch. So it means to send out. Now, if a student is on their way to the office and for some reason I need to get them back into the room, I do the opposite, which is to recall. So when I recall them, that I am calling them back into the classroom. Again, we fill it into the sentence. There are two sentences because we have two parts of speech. We put in, we'll dispatch a repair crew right away, which is the one that means send out. And then the next sentence is, he approved the request with dispatch. Now this one, if you notice, says promptness, but if you notice, I do not have promptness as a definition they need to know. So there are some definitions they don't have to bother with. The only things they need to study are what they have here. One more word, and then of course you'll have an idea of how you're supposed to progress through the lessons as I assign them. The next word is douse. It is only a verb. It means to pour liquid on. And of course I give them as many examples as I can every time I introduce a word. It could be to douse the puppy with water to give him a bath. It could be to douse your friends in the pool when you are playing Marco Polo. Douse means to pour a liquid on. Firefighters obviously have to douse a fire. So the more examples you can give to your child using this vocabulary word, the easier it's going to be for them to understand their meaning. Now the antonym for this is to kindle. Kindle means to start a fire. So kindle is the opposite of douse. Now again, there's a lot of other words that are there for douse. You don't need to know them. Every single one of these words is all you need to know for the test. This next one is the only one that is an adverb. We rarely have adverbs in this lesson. This one is an adverb, but we rarely have adverbs. Unfortunately, this particular one does. It means plainly. So I hope that with this video, I am expressly explaining to you how vocabulary has to be done. So it means clearly or plainly. The antonym is when I didn't really prepare, it all accidentally happened, but obviously I clearly and plainly have prepared this lesson. So expressly means clearly or plainly. Again, putting it in the sentence, we have at the meeting, parents expressly stated their approval of students wearing school uniforms. I do this through all 20 of the words. We go very slowly. We give the students time to carefully print the word in and to highlight and to write the circles. Now, if you notice, the next page at the end of the lesson of the 20 words is choosing the right word. These are sentences where they have to pick one of two words as the meaning, the correct word. They should read the sentence carefully. Make sure they understand the sentence clearly. Look for some clue words that are telling them what the message is that the sentence is trying to convey. And then using the printed copy of this, so make sure you print a copy for them to have right next to them. And they shouldn't have to use the book. They should be able to use this to answer the questions. And if you notice, the first sentence would say, his notebooks show that Leonardo da Vinci was not only a masterful artist, but and the choices are inept or ingenious inventor as well. As you go through the rest of the 20 words, you're going to see that ingenious means able to come up with really great ideas. That's the correct word that we need for that sentence. In number 2, it says we can, and it's either compress or besiege, the message from the sermon into one short sentence, and that's your clue, short. We're trying to compress it and make it smaller. So the word we want here is compress. So they will do all 25 of these sentences. Now I have a template that I will send for you, and they can circle the word in their book, but I also want them to type the word into my template. So by number 1, in choosing the right word, they would type in ingenious. In number 2, where they're going to choose compress, they would type in compress. So all I want is the word, and then after they have completed the 25, then they are finished with that section. The next section, which is actually on page 18, I wanted to share with you that Unit 1 starts on page 14 in their vocabulary workshop. And choosing the word is on page 17, and the synonyms are on page 18. So they look at the synonyms, and then they find the word that means the same thing as that word. So ditch the leaky boat means to abandon it. And one of the words here that I haven't gone over with you is forsake, which means to abandon. So that's where they write here, forsake, practicing their spelling, but also typing it in on my template. They have 10 synonyms. I am aware that the antonyms are I think the hardest sections of the book. And again, if it says to write a compliment, they don't want the word that means the same thing as a compliment. They want the word that means the opposite of a compliment. So again, you would go through all of the words in the lesson, and if you need to go back and refer to the actual book to find the answer, then do so. But remember, for the test, I will not have any word on the test that does not appear here. Everything that they need to know is going to be here. I've specifically chosen the things that will make them successful for the test, and I have specifically eliminated those things that just might confuse them. All I ask them to do is the best they can. If they are not able, if they don't get them all right, again, this is not graded. This is just to give them practice using these words. The next section is the one that they will have samples of on the test. They have to find the word that would fit into the completing the sentence. I will have a word bank for them. So they will only have 6 words when they take the test and only 3 sentences. So they're not going to have 20. And again, I will be scanning you the test for them to take. And again, I will have a template. And I don't want them to use the test. They can write on the test if they choose, but they're going to be typing their answer for me in the template to send it back to me to grade. They are to take the test the same day that I assign it for the class, and I will have the due date posted on Google Classroom, so they will know how much time they have to practice and how much time they have to prepare and when it's actually time for them to study. Now, Ms. Dwyer has sent home the honor system, and of course, that's very important for you as a parent to teach your child about honesty, and when the time for the test comes, it is not an open book test. If it is an open book test for some other test, I surely will tell you. By all means, use every resource you have to try to get these correct. But vocabulary is meant to be something I want them to learn. So when they take the test, it should be done without my posted copy, without the vocabulary book. It should be taken honestly and sincerely to see what they've learned. After you've returned it to me and I have graded it, of course I will send you back the grade and the return test so that they can see. In the beginning, my 5th graders struggle a little bit with this. Please bear with it. It gets better. By the time they're in 6th and 7th grade, most of the grades are A's and B's. They have learned the tricks of the test. They have learned the endings to look for that help them know whether they're nouns, verbs, or adjectives. They have learned parts of speech a lot better. So please be aware that in the beginning, the grades might not be as high as you expect or as you would like. That's to be expected. So just keep doing your very best. That's all I ever ask of my students, is their very best performance. So Unit 1 is now, or will be, posted in at-home Google Classroom. I'm going very slowly with my students in school. I don't intend to finish introducing the words on Monday. And even when I finish, which is probably going to be on Tuesday, we do a lot of the exercises together. I do always save the very last section, completing the sentence, for them to do independently, because I like for them to get a real taste of understanding how a sentence works, to looking for context clues in order to pick the right word. This is how every single vocabulary lesson is going to be done throughout the year. Always refer to this video if you forget. Remember, you have those websites that are extremely helpful in having your child be successful at this. This is not something you can study the night before the test and expect to do well. It is definitely something that needs a little bit of review each day. Now, in addition to vocabulary homework, there will be English assignments as well. I teach both of those subjects within the course of my class. So sometimes you will see an English assignment posted along with a vocabulary assignment. So if you have any questions, be sure you email me at kdonnelly@stfrancisxavier.com. Thank you.